Hi everyone, welcome to the visual guide for the Skydeep Cenote. This is the third leveling dungeon made available by patch 7.0 in Final Fantasy XIV Dawn Trail. You may find these bosses a colossal nuisance, but don't let them burst your bubble. You may need to take some time to reflect on your current progress before getting all fired up and asserting your dominance. My name is Miztech and I'll be your dungeon guide. The first section of trash has your typical AoE attacks to avoid. Avoid extra spookies by not thinking about why there are ghosts here. The first boss is Feather Ray. Immersion will deal high group-wide damage. Troublesome Tail will also deal group damage and afflict everyone with the nuisance debuff. The boss will then turn in a direction and cast Worrisome Wave, a large frontal cone. Players should move to avoid getting hit. Once this cast goes off, all players will copy this boss attack and cast it once their debuff runs out. To avoid overlapping each other, players can turn their characters to fade outwards during this time. Hydra Ring is a large donut attack that will further limit the available safe area of the platform. Blowing Bubbles will have a number of bubbles form from the boss that move outwards towards players. These bubbles will damage and debuff anyone they hit, so be sure to dodge as necessary. When the boss casts Bubble Bomb, numerous bubbles will appear over the platform. The boss will then cast Rolling Current, a knockback that will only push the bubbles in the direction of the arrows. Immediately after the knockback, all bubbles will explode in wide circles. To avoid getting hit, players will need to identify the gaps between the bubbles and pre-position to end up in a safe area after the bubbles get knocked around. During the next Troublesome Tail, players will be copying the boss's Blowing Bubbles attack, forming bubbles of their own while dodging the boss's bubbles. There are a lot of bubbles floating around here, so watch your step. These mechanics will repeat until the boss is down. The next set of trash starts to hint at some interesting things to come, but their attacks are still the usual. Watch your feet and burn it all down. The second boss is the aptly named Firearms. Dynamic Dominance will deal high group-wide damage and form a debuff wall on the outer edge of the platform. Mirror Maneuver will form a mirror and a golden orb on the outer edge of the platform. The boss will then leap to a random point on the edge and begin to cast Thunderlight Burst towards the mirror. This mirror will reflect the attack towards the orb, causing a massive circle explosion to occur. Players will have to pull out their protractors and dodge the incoming angles of line attacks while also ensuring they're far enough away to avoid the final orb explosion. The boss will return to the center and cast Ancient Artillery, causing tiles on the platform to glow and eventually explode in the direction of their arrows. These Bomberman attacks will cause the formation of safe tiles that players must stand in to avoid getting hit. Pummel will target the primary target for a heavy-hitting tank buster. Use cooldowns and heal as necessary. As the encounter continues, Mirror Maneuver will become more complicated, and you'll need to use more brain cells to figure out which of the golden orbs will explode to be able to move away in time. Healers be ready to heal up the players that are bad at math like Miztech. Thunderlight Flurry will target players with circle markers. Be ready to spread these apart after dodging the previous mechanics to avoid overlapping damage. All of these mechanics will repeat until the boss is down. This third section of trash is one of the coolest in the game so far, so make sure you take some time to enjoy it as you crush the weird rock robot trash bags. The final boss is Maulskull. They really went all out with the boss names in this dungeon. The boss begins by casting Stone Carver, powering up his fists in succession. Players will need to look closely at which fist is being powered up first before moving to the opposite side. Don't move too far though, as once the first fist attack goes off, you'll need to dodge back into that area to avoid getting fisted by the next attack. Skull Crush will knock back players from the blue circle, and players will need to use a knockback immunity or pre-position to avoid getting knocked off the platform. At the same time, players will be marked with these circle markers that will need to be spread to avoid overlap. You'll have some time to spread after the knockback. Periodically, the boss will cast Maul Work, punching a bunch of rocks that will cause debris to fall onto the platform in the form of AoE attacks. Players will need to dodge these as necessary. This attack ends with large green arrow telegraphs, and players will need to move away from these areas to avoid the final rock attack. A stack-up pillar will form in front of the boss, and players will need to stand in it to reduce the incoming damage. The boss will slam the platform multiple times here, and healers will need to be ready to heal. When the boss casts Ringing Blows, players will need to pay attention to the order that his fists are powered up, while also pre-positioning around the knockback circle. Get knocked into the first safe side before running to the opposite side to avoid the second fist attack. Rot Fire will target the primary target with a heavy-hitting tank buster. Cooldown and heal as necessary. Colossal Impact will form another blue knockback circle somewhere on the platform, while a random player is targeted with a stack-up marker. The group will need to be knocked back together to reduce incoming damage from the stack-up attack. The next Colossal Impact will coincide with spread circles on all players, so make sure you move away from one another after the knockback. Ash Slayer will deal deal high group-wide damage. Healers beware. All of these mechanics will repeat with some overlap until the boss is down. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Up next, we'll look at Vanguard. As always, thanks for watching. Till next time.